Today is day 4 with my Texas Extreme Mustang Makeover horse for 2022, and we're going to get started right away. Before I get started with too much, I like to do a little bit of an introduction with these guys, and if they are kind of inclined to draw them in a little bit first, and just kind of say hi to them and greet them before asking them to do any work. I think the last wild sense to leave this guy is going to be his snorting. Good boy. I'm tempted to start working on later today haltering different ways, like tossing the halter over the neck instead of going in front of the face. It all just depends on what that horse initially prefers, and then we like to work on all the methods. Of course, when I switch over to a nylon halter at some point, you're going to have to deal with all of the hardware kind of jingling around, so that'll be another factor. Now, I did do a session with him last night that I didn't record, just because it's kind of hard to keep up with the recording for every single time I want to go in the pen with this guy. Good boy. It's not always practical to bring up my whole rig and setting up here. Good boy. And yesterday evening, good boy, we worked a lot on leading around, kind of isolating the hip and the forequarters. He did get fairly stuck with the shoulder, so I did have to add a little bit more pressure there and basically go back to that sending exercise that I originally used to get him to lead and go forward. And then once I was able to send him out from there and get him understanding forward, we had no problem getting a step with the shoulder, so I'll be curious to see if I can get that again. So a little bit more leading, and then I'm going to go to petting his body. The other thing that I did yesterday evening was pick up his front feet. He was able to lead by them very softly. I was surprised. There was literally no resistance or fight at all. I was able to pick it up. He maybe pulled it back like with half effort once, and then he understood really fast to walk into it. That video I just posted on the 5 groundwork exercises is really similar to what I'm about to do. I'm going to work on the hips, the shoulder, the pole, all of that good stuff. So first, if he's anticipating, rub him down with the whip. Now, he hasn't been super jumpy or sensitive to touch, so it's not too much of a problem, but I still want to respect that he is a little tense with it. See if I can help him through that. First thing I'm going to do is lean my body, and I'm waiting for that cross in front. Now, you'll notice he kind of has a backwards reaction. So I really wait until that cross is in front. I'm not just going to release for him turning his hind end around. Now, the other thing I want to work on is when we settle, not having him flip around to the front every single time. So there, instead of adding pressure instantly, I'm just going to ask him to face up, give him a little bit of line to move out, and then look for that hip to come around instead of getting in a fight with him. So the problem is when he releases, he wants me to be right in front of him instead of on his side, so he does a blocking method, which is basically just tipping his nose right back around to me and keeping me in front of him. So I have to make sure every time I release that I end up on that side instead of in front of him. So let's go ahead and see that again. Look for that hindquarter to yield. Good, so that time I was able to catch him a little bit quicker. Again, as soon as he releases and looks in, I'm going to let go of that pressure. So I know we're off screen right now. I'm just going to send him forward. Good. And he's getting in a little bit of a habit of pulling that neck away, which is why I'm getting a little bit more firm with when to dig my feet in. I just have to make sure I release instantly. Good boy. And again, looking for that hip to move. Good. As soon as that hip moves and crosses in front, see how it's crossing behind right now? Good. So he ended up crossing behind at the end, but I released when he had the cross in front. Good boy. Just going to tighten this halter up a little bit. So we're just getting in the habit of making sure that we end in that side spot instead of in front of him, and then I get that proper crossover. Good. That was better. Good boy. So he's a little bit antsy on that release still, so I want to make sure I'm super clear about it, give him enough of a break in between. Good boy. I know, it's all new stuff. You're doing good. Okay, I'm going to ask again. Tip my body, wave the whip, cluck. Good. That was better. Good. And again. Lean my body, wave the whip, and I want to end with a step in front. Good. Lean my body. See how I keep getting that step behind? I was getting a little bit lenient on it and allowing it to end with that step, but now I really want to make sure I'm able to release good on a front crossing step. See how that last step always kind of lags out? So I'm going to wait until I can kind of capture. I'm not too worried about that rope right now. Good. That was it. All right, we're going to take a look at the other side right now, which is his weaker side. He's a little bit more cautious over here. Good. We had a big problem with that yesterday. He wouldn't move at all. He was getting a little stuck, so I used that sending exercise to get him thinking forward with his feet. That's usually the problem with these guys if they're getting stuck, is because they're just thinking about moving so far backwards. You can tell that's kind of his first reaction, is to back up rather than go forward. Good. One more. Good. It's really important that he knows how to give to that pressure of my hand near his face and on his shoulder and get him to step away from that rather than move into it, because that can create a little bit of a pushy horse problem, and it's important he's almost stepping forward while doing it rather than behind, again, so we don't get into the issue of him backing up to evade pressure. It's really tricky for these guys when we're teaching him so many things all at the same time. Like, he learned how to yield his hindquarters and how to move his shoulder on the same day, so it's a little bit difficult to try to correct right now when he's giving those as answers, because they're so new to him, and you know, maybe 5 minutes ago it was the correct answer, so it's such a fast switch up on him. So I try to be really patient when they just start learning everything. Good boy. The other thing we started working on, which we'll definitely look more at, is pole releases. Good boy. So that's one of his triggers, is when I kind of approach at this weird angle with my hand, you can see him kind of jump in place a couple of the times. Good boy. So that's something that you would just condition with a lot of repetition. Good. All right, so for pole releases, that's when my hand is going to be right at his pole or a little bit behind it, and I'm going to squeeze and add pressure with the rope. As soon as that head drops a little, I'm going to release both. Good. So the goal here is to get the pole lower than the withers to kind of stretch that top line. You'll notice a lot of relaxed horses hold their head super low, so I kind of call this artificial relaxation when I'm able to put them into this zone. And the other thing this really helps with is just them getting way softer and prepping them for tying, giving to pressure in a new way. Like, we teach them how to give to pressure backwards to back up, and forwards to walk forward, and to the side to go to the side. But sometimes people forget that giving them pull pressure to drop down and release is really useful too. Good boy. So that's kind of where he's comfortable at right now for dropping his pole, which you see isn't super far down, but it is a start. If you need to, if your horse is getting stuck, you'll see me kind of wiggling, good, the rope back and forth. Good. Good boy. There, and he didn't pop back up that time. He was already pretty good with this rope just going over and kind of swinging around his body parts. And by good, I mean not really running away or majorly spooking. You can tell he is still nervous about it, moving around, snorting. Good boy. So what I'm going to do is do this today until I see a sign of relaxation from him. It's really important when you're doing any form of desensitizing where you want them to stay still, that you don't have energy through the tool you're using or through your body. So I'm either waiting for the head to drop, the eye to soften, the nostrils to stop flaring, or just the overall tenseness of the body to go down. So I got a little bit right there, but I'm going to see if I can hang on for a little bit more. Good boy. And I know this kind of seems like a boring process, but that rhythmic motion whenever you're doing desensitizing is super important. So we got the nostrils to soften. There. There, that was better. Good boy. Likes to do that blocking. Good boy. As soon as those feet stay still and that nose is straight, release. I know, I'm asking so much of you. You're doing so good. Good boy. I like that reaction. I think he spooked at something behind him moving. He thought about bolting, but then stuck around. So anytime I take out a new tool, I'm gonna let that horse investigate it and sniff it first, should they choose to. I'm just gonna get this a little bit untied. Let him check it out. Good boy. Come here, come step into frame. Good, and then go to rubbing the familiar body part, just like we did with that stick on one of the first days. Good boy. Good. So again, it's that fast approaching from the side, so it's good to know that I can work on that not only with my hand, but with the stick as well. And I'm comfortable doing this with him, one, because I did show him the ribbon wand yesterday for a minute or two, but also I worked with that stick and string with all of the motion and getting him used to it. Good. Yeah, so I definitely can target that sway away more with the stick, which is nice because if he does move, it's easier to keep up with him and stick with him. Good boy. Using a stick and string rather than just my arm. Good boy. So now I'm going to get this tossing over his back, over his hip. So he is breathing right now, but it's very short, small breaths. Again, kind of indicating that we're in a little bit of a freeze state. I think one of my favorite things about working with Mustangs is it kind of makes you dial in and realize a bunch of small things about them and how to read horses. Like even now, he's more worried about me being on his side because his head is tipped over to me than he is the ribbon wand going over. Now he does flick his ear back every once in a while to kind of listen to it and pay attention to it, and you can see a little bit more worry in his eye when it goes over, so I just wait for that to soften. But his main focus is on where my body is. See how I just moved in there and he kind of was like, whoa, that was a change of pace. It kind of moved me out of my freeze state. Good, that was better. He got a little softer there. Good boy. So now I'll go in with my hand. I think my camera cut out because I reached the max movie recording size and it didn't restart. I don't know if it caught when I was saying that I'm just kind of introducing petting on the back in the girth area by going to the new spot and then back to the familiar spot just to prep for that saddle pad. Now I'm going to go grab the pad So I'm right here. This kind of seems like his threshold right now, so I'm going to hold it here and take it away. Hold it here, take it away. Wait for him to lean back towards it, take it away. Good, so that time we didn't get the swing back. He's engaging a little bit more. Good boy. Okay, so now that he's touched it a couple times, I'm gonna start moving it from a distance. So similar to the desensitizing we were doing with the ribbon wand, everything we kind of introduce at a distance. And with the saddle pad, I don't mind having it get big at a distance, but when I start rubbing it on their side, I like to kind of fold it up and then expand it over time. You'll see what I mean, just to introduce a smaller sized object. Hold it out to him, let him check it out, and then release. Good, and now when I want to go to rubbing on the side, I'm going to fold it in half. Good. We didn't have a super big flinch wave reaction, so I'm going to release right there. Gonna wait till he kind of leans back into position or gets a little bit more stable and steady. And release. Good boy. I wanted to speed through most of this because it is a lot of repetition, and I know you guys are probably sick of seeing all the repetition that I'm doing, but I know most of it is important, so I just want to make sure I cover it and, you know, stick with your horse until they relax and settle down, remove the object, and try again. So now the first time I put it over them, sometimes I put it more over their neck than their back. It really just depends. Good boy. I want to see if I can touch a little bit of the hindquarters with it. Good. That was super. Good boy. So for sure his branded side is his more comfortable side with me. It's really important when you're doing this stuff to make sure your horse understands to tip their nose to you and give to pressure at least in that direction. So if they do decide to move or take off, you can give them a little bit of space and realize that you need to respect the threshold and work on it a little bit slower. He is bringing out some more forward motion though, which is nice. Good boy. So this is usually how I introduce them to a saddle pad at first. I do a lot of desensitizing and then eventually get it over that neck and withers. And then it kind of starts to slide back into place. So now I'm going to take it off over here and put it back on. The more times I can take it on and off, the better. Good boy. Give him a second to look at it if he wants. Good boy. And then right back into tossing it. Try not to be too careful about it. If you're being really careful about it, that means you got to do some other prep work rather than just get that pad on. There we go. Good boy. So my next steps after this will be putting this lead rope around his belly, teaching him what it's like to feel a little bit of pressure there, getting him used to my hand rubbing directly under him. Good boy. And then eventually working towards that surcingle. All right, that is going to be it for my morning session today with him, and I will catch you guys in the next video.